Thank you very much, Virginia, and thanks a lot for the invitation to come here today and discuss. And I will use my little slot here to first give a very short presentation of the agency and then actually raise some of the challenges that we have and that we maybe could, that we need to explore. And in particular, I take, so to say, the benefit of a number of both Eurostat being here, and I know there are some statisticians in the audience as well. And here I have a few things I would like to raise. But first, briefly, who are we? We are the EU Fundamental Rights Agency, and we were established in 2007. And since we are covering all the fundamental rights, we in our mission statement have to be a bit more modest than the Gender Institute, which only, sort of say, they are making equality a reality. We are just helping to make fundamental rights since, I mean, we have to cover it all. So, but we will collaborate definitely on also on the gender aspect, which is also explicitly part of our mandate. And as the other agencies, normally we do it by providing comparative data, evidence-based expertise and advice to EU institutions and member states, as well as we are involved in awareness raising, information activities. We are, of course, we have the entire spectrum of fundamental rights, which is quite a mouthful. So the Council offers us a 5-year work program that runs out in 2012. So we are anxious to see what the new work program will look like, or multi-annual framework. But for the moment, it's these 9 issues: racism, discrimination, compensation of victims, rights of the child, asylum, immigration, visa and border control, EU citizens' participation, protection of personal data, access to efficient and independent justice. So basically, I think what we have here are all the key fundamental rights areas then clustered in these 9 areas. We are, for the moment, in light of the changes due to the Lisbon Treaty, discussing, or the Commission is trying to get through in the Council of a 10th element, namely in the more criminal procedure policing area. That was originally excluded from our mandate, but with the Lisbon Treaty and the doing away with the pillar system, the police and judicial issues automatically then became part of our broader mandate, but of course not of the multi-annual framework. So that is now being changed, hopefully. Then we have basically our core task is to provide, as I said, evidence-based advice, getting the evidence, producing the data, and then from there ensure that it actually reaches the relevant decision makers, stakeholders, EU institutions, member states, but also institutions in member states. And for that, networking, engagement with partners in order to really get a strong sense of what are the issues in member states. Where is it that the human rights issues are really being confronted, where we have to look further into it. That takes a very strong knowledge and interaction with actors on the ground. So we, through our networking engagement, stakeholder engagement, have up to 5 to 10 different interlocutors in each member state. But also, of course, for channeling then our findings, our recommendations back into the different sectors. Secondly, of course, we need to then communicate. I mean, far too often institutions like ours communicate in reports of 200 pages. Here you are, take it or leave it, that's it. And of course, as we all know, we have to be much more advanced. We have to develop much further. How do we actually communicate with the different stakeholders? Each of them almost take a special treatment, a special way of addressing it. And here again, we are exploring a lot of those elements as well. And these are then some of our stakeholders, again, of course, EU member states and EU institutions, member states, have very close collaboration with Council of Europe, national human rights institutions, equality bodies in member states are some of our key partners. So this is in brief who we are, how we work. We are approximately the same size as Eurofound, 100 people in Vienna, a budget of approximately 20 million euro, and as I said, established in 2007. So on gender, as I said, it's explicitly part of our mandate, and then the challenge is to explore, as I said earlier, to explore the complementarity and synergies. And therefore I'm very pleased with the agreement that we have signed today, where we can see how can we actually mainstream gender issues into our work. I would like to mention one very big project that we've embarked upon this year in 2010 in a pilot project, and which will be rolled out fully in 2011. And that is a big survey on violence against women. We have, over the years, developed new methodologies on doing particular surveys, and we are taking that further and now looking into the issue of violence against women that was requested from the Parliament in 2009 and repeated by the Council in 2010, that they wished us to work on that. Apart from looking into what are the phenomena, we are also looking into what sort of knowledge do women have about helplines, about the services, how do they actually turn to use the police, turn to police, what are the barriers for doing that, what are the barriers to know about the knowledge, basically know about your rights and who can help you out there. But also looking into some of the, sort of say, newer forms of violence against women, such as stalking and harassment, using new technologies as text messaging, internet, etc. All these new phenomena we hope that we can capture and basically offer to the EIGE, to the environment in general, much deeper knowledge about some of these issues. As we heard this morning, we have fought now for 500 years, and I must say some of us are losing a little bit patience and want to speed up, and if we can contribute to that, I'm more than happy. We hope that the findings will materialize in 2012, and then of course we'll roll out probably numerous reports coming out of the findings. Hopefully this will also lead to establishing a set of indicators that we could work on, so it could be followed up. Another area where we see a potential for great collaboration, let me say that this study has been done from, I would almost say, day one, in very close collaboration with EIGE, sitting on our advisory board, and we have been in close contact from the very first stages. We also, of course, multiple forms of discrimination is another area where collaboration is of great interest. Race, ethnicity, gender, disability, and when all these different elements play together, how do we actually deal with it? How do we address it? What we do is that we do a lot of, let's say, desk surveys, legal analysis, legal research, but also that we then enter into member states to harvest secondary data. Very often when we talk about discrimination in particular, what do we look into? We look into whether people have complained to police, how many complaints, how many cases went through court, how many complaints to an equality body, etc. And then we receive all this data. And then we say, and so what? What does it tell us? What does it tell us that 60,000 people complained about racial discrimination in Great Britain in 1 year? 60,000 complaints received by police. And in 10 member states, 0 complaints. Does that mean that Britain is 60,000 times more racist than the 10 member states where there are no complaints? Probably not. It probably tells us, what these figures tell us about is probably a question of how knowledgeable are the victims about their rights, how well established are the institutions, What sort of outreach does the police have? What sort of training do they have? Doesn't tell us much about the level of racism, but it tells us a lot about, so to say, different stories.